How's it going? I'm doing fine. Today is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Recap Camp Anson's 27-year career, 1871, 1897. I devoted a video to each season. I found out some interesting stats along the way. If you dig deep in a player's career, you'll find some gold nuggets. I found some with Cap Anson. Yes, he was a controversial player in baseball history. Played in the old school era, 1870s, 80s, and 90s. Race relations, he had a problem with black players. A lot of games were scheduled, and a couple times black players were on the opposing team. Cap Anson refused to play. Shame on him. That's a flaw in his career. He didn't want to play. Then there was a league back then that had a vote among a lot of the players and owners and executives or whatever. They voted no black players playing in the National League. And Camp Anson was one of those who voiced his opinion. He said, I don't want to play with those guys. That's a flaw in his character. As far as his baseball career, remarkable. Gotta say it. You gotta. It's noteworthy. He played 27 years, started age 19 and went through age 45. He played in 2,524 games. You know why? He didn't get to the 3,000 mark like Ty Cobb and Cal Ripken, Carl Yastrzemski. These are some of these guys, over 3,000 games. Henry Aaron, 3,000 games. Willie Mays just fell short. Did you know that? He had like 2,900. I believe it was about 90. Didn't quite get to 3,000. The reason why Cap Anson did not get to 3,000 games, because in his first 13 years, he did not play triple-digit games in a season. A lot of the games are like 55, 56, 69, 68, 8. Then in the 1880s, they get up to about 80 games. 1870s was below 80 games in a season. Then 1880s, they got 86, 84. Eventually got to 98 games. Then it wasn't until about his 14th year in the league, he got up to triple digits in games played in the season, 112, 1884. Then he got going and he played a lot. Got 130 games. He got up to 146 games one year. He eventually ended up at 2,524. But what's remarkable is that in that amount of games, he accumulated 3,435 hits. Now, there's a dispute. He did get over 3,000 hits, but some of the other hit totals, the stats back then, the baseball historians have been trying to say, hey, what's his official number? Well, Baseball Reference kind of figured it out. The games he played, some of the leagues. They had some federal leagues, National League, International League, and whatever got going, but it was Major League Baseball. They added all the hits. It's 3,435. So I'm going to go according to Baseball's reference. Okay. He had 10,281 at bats. 1,999 runs scored. How about that? One, two, three, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 seasons over 100 runs scored. He ends up with 1,999. If he had known that stat, he would have said, oh, I need one more for 2,000. Didn't do it. How about the 3,435 hits in 2,524 games? That's a ratio of 1.36 hits per game played. So I did some presupposing, I did some hypotheticals. Who has the most games played in Major League history? Pete Rose, 3,562, right? What if Cap Anson had played 3,562 games and kept his average of 1.36 hits per game played? Well, what you have to do is 3562 minus the games that he played, 2524. It comes up to 1,038 games more that Cap Anson would need to play in order to match Pete Rose's total of 3,562. So he averaged 1.36 hits per game played in his career. Multiply that by another 1,038 games so that Cap Anson and Pete Rose have the same number of games. How many hits would Cap Anson have? 1,038 times 1.36 hits per game is 1,411 more hits. Add that to his total. 3435 plus 1,411. If Cap Anson had played 3,562 games and averaged 1.36 hits per game played, he would have ended up with 4,846 hits. Of course, he didn't play that many games. He only played 2,524 games. But how about that stat? All right, let's say he had played 3,034 games, the same as Ty Cobb. Would he have more hits than Ty Cobb? Well, 3,034 games, which Cobb played, minus 3,034 minus 3,034, 2,524. It would be 510 more games that Cap Anson would have to play in order to match Ty Cobb's 3,034 games. 510 times 1.36, which Cap Anson averaged per game played, is 693 more hits. Let's add 693 hits to 3435 of Cap Anson's total. 3435 plus 693. At the pace he was going, Cap Anson would have ended up with 4,128 hits. But he didn't catch Cobb. Cobb has what? 4,189. Cobb, best hitter of all time as far as ratio or as far as total hits. Even if Cap Anson had played 3,034 games to match Cobb, he wouldn't have caught him in hits. Cobb was a better hitter. All right, some other stats on Cap Anson, recapping his career. 582 doubles. Not bad. 142 triples. 97 homers, not a home run guy. The baseball fields back in the 1870s, 80s, and 90s, no fences. Just open fields. He probably had a lot of inside the parkers. How about this stat? 2,075 RBIs in his career. He's a member of the 2,000 RBI club. How many members are there? I think there's 5, right? Aaron, Ruth, Pujols, I believe Alex Rodriguez, and then Cap Anson. 5 guys, 2,000 or more RBI career. He also had 8 seasons, 100 or more RBIs. That's a good stat for Cap Anson. His high was 147 RBIs. All right, how about this? 277 stolen bases in his career. So he ran the bases. 984 walks in 27 years. So he didn't walk that much. He had a couple seasons He had one season over 100 walks. How about this stat? 330 career strikeouts in 10,281 at bats. Pretty good, right? 330 strikeouts. 334 career batting average. This is an interesting stat for this guy. I didn't know it until I researched it. He had 20 consecutive seasons batting over 300. That's not a record though. Cobb holds the record 23 seasons in a row, 300 or better. Number 2 on the list, Cap Anson's 20 consecutive 300 batting seasons. Tony Gwynn is third, I believe. 19 consecutive 300 batting seasons. I think Ted Williams, he didn't have the consecutive streak going, but he had 18 300 batting seasons out of 19-year career. All right, it says he batted 400 once, but that was in 46 games, so we really can't count that. He had a 399 one year, but that was in 84 games. I say his best year was 1886, where he had 125 games, 500 at bats, my criteria. He batted 371 and had 187 hits. Never had 200 hits in a season. So I told you he had 20 consecutive seasons batting 300 or better. He also had 4 more seasons out of the 27 where he batted 300 again. Out of the 27 seasons, he batted under 300 3 times. So that means he had 24 seasons batting over 300. That is a major league record. Cobb is second, 23 seasons over 300. So the trivia question is this: which player has the most 300 batting seasons? The answer is Cap Anson's. His career on base, 394. Career slugging, 447. And he had 4,592 total bases. How can we evaluate and rank Cap Anson? Here's how I'd rank him. You have to say that he's one of the greatest hitters in the pre-1900 era. There were some good hitters back in that era too. Dan Brothers had a 342 career batting average. Didn't have as many career hits. King Kelly was a good hitter. Roger Connor was a good hitter. You had Ross Barnes, some of these other guys in the pre-1900 era. I'm not going to count Nap Lajoie. He did play in the 1890s, but he extended over into the 1900s. Not going to count Hollis Wagner. He also was 1890s, got going, but he carried over into the 1900s. Cap Anson stopped his career 1897, so never played past 1900. I think we can say that he was the greatest hitter of that era. As far as ranking him among the all-time great hitters of all time, of the 150-year history of baseball, it's hard to say because he had those 24 seasons of 300 or better, but a lot of those seasons, they did not play 100 games. If he had played 130, 140, 150 game seasons and still had those 24 seasons of 300 or better, then we could rank him a little higher. but I'm going to rank him a little lower because of the amount of game. Even though his ratio of hits per game played is excellent, 1.36, and he did get 2,524 games. I'd put him in the top 20 greatest hitter of all time. Somewhere in the top 20. I don't think past that. Where would he rank? I know there's 10 that I would rank better because they played more games and higher batting averages. His is 334. As far as career batting averages, where does he rank? Let's see. What number is he in the career batting average? Well, we've got Cobb 1, Hornsby, Jackson, O'Doul, Delonte, Speaker, Hamilton, Williams, Brothers, Ruth, Dave Orr, Heilman, Browning, Keeler, Terry, Gehrig, Sisler, Burkett, Gwynn, Lajoie, Simmons. All those guys have higher career batting averages. As far as career hit totals, where does he rank? Let's see. As far as career hit totals, career hits leaders. Cap Anson's number 7. You got Pete Rose, Cobb, Aaron, Musial, Speaker, and Jeter are all ahead of him. So you got to consider that. I'd say top 20. Maybe close to top 15 greatest hitter of all time. How do we evaluate him in baseball history? He was pretty good. He was Mr. Baseball. He probably ate, slept, and drunk baseball all the time. About 27 years. He also did some managing. He was a manager. Won 1,000 games as a manager. Let's see. Cap Anson. He died at age 69. Let's see. If you go to his Wikipedia page, Cap Anson Wikipedia. Yeah, he had 7 kids. I don't know. This guy was unique in baseball history. Captain. Cap. Pop. They called him Pop. He was pretty good. His character had flaw, though. He didn't like playing with black players. I don't know what was wrong with him. If I was interviewing him, I'd say, "What's the problem, guy? What's the beef?" Of course, nowadays, we've seen the light, right? You know, I blame the owners and baseball players of that era for a flawed personalities and their character of not allowing the black players to play in the big leagues. I really blame Congress and the presidents from 1870 through 1947. Could they have not used their voice and their bully pulpit, they call it, and say, hey, let the black players play in the major leagues? Especially at the turn of the century. I know after the Civil War, there's a lot of friction. 1865, the Civil War ended. Then you had the 1870s of the Reconstruction era. So the slaves are free. And then there was the thinking, I know, I've read some history books, that in the 1870s, 1880s, and 1890s, they wanted the blacks to have their own leagues. And that's what they did after the 1900s in 1910 or 20, whenever they got going. I think it was 1920s. They established all their leagues. And so they were playing a lot of baseball. You had the Josh Gibson, Satchel Pages, Oscar Charlton, Turkey Stearns, all those guys. Really good players. They were playing in their own leagues. And there were a couple of times where the Negro Leagues played the National League and the American League teams. They did that in exhibitions. But as far as the commissioners and the owners of the teams keeping the blacks out from 1870 all the way up through 1947, what a travesty in baseball history. Don't you agree? Because look what happened after 1947, Jackie Robinson, and then you get the 1950s. You have Henry Aaron, Willie Mays, Ernie Banks, all these guys coming up through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And then in the 80s, you get Tony Gwynn. Can you imagine baseball without Tony Gwynn or Ernie Banks? Some of these black players establish records. Aaron holds the home run record. He beat the Babe. What really bothers me is that the presidents and the people in Congress, the senators and the House of Representatives during that time, couldn't they have spoke out and say, "Hey, baseball, what's the problem?" And assimilate the Negro Leagues and the major leagues and have everybody play in the same league, National League and American League. We'd have seen a lot of records. How about Josh Gibson? Would he have hit a lot of home runs? Yes. Oscar Charlton had a really high batting average. How about Satchel Paige? How many games would he have won? That really bothers me, that nobody spoke up. Was it the owners saying, no, we don't want it? Couldn't the president got together and have the owners come into his office say, what's the beef? Couldn't the representatives, the House of Representatives in all the states, couldn't they have spoken up? How about the senators? Couldn't they have said something? Why did it take until 1947? I don't get it. All right, Cap Anson. I covered you 27 years. I'm impressed. What a career. He played until he was 45. And I had some trivia questions on Cap Anson that were asked. One of them was, which player had the most RBIs 42 years old in the baseball history? Cap Anson's the answer. He had 100 RBIs at age 42 in a season. The second trivia question I asked was, which player had the highest batting average at age 42 in the big leagues? The answer, Cap Anson. He had a 388 at age 42. And then which player had the most hits 43 years old? The answer, Cap Anson had 159 hits at age 43 years old. All right, I'm done with Cap Anson. 27 videos on that guy. Who's next? Who should I cover now? It's a little hobby of mine, just covering baseball players, looking at their seasons, devoting a video to each season. I'm retired. That's why I'm doing it. If you're interested, let's see. You want to know how many guys I've done on my YouTube channel? I know I have over 1,400 videos. I've probably covered 250 baseball players on my video channel. I'm going to keep going. As far as the detailed season by season guys, who have I covered? All right, here's who I've covered. Ty Cobb, Rogers Hornsby, Joe Jackson, Lefty O'Doul, Ed Delante, Tris Speaker, Billy Hamilton, Ted Williams, Dan Brothers, Babe Ruth, Dave Orr, Harry Heilman, Pete Browning, Willie Keeler, Bill Terry, Lou Gehrig, George Sisler, Jesse Burkett, Tony Gwynn, Nat Lajoie, Al Simmons, Stan Musial, Joe DiMaggio, and Cap Anson. Who's next? You got to go according to baseball history. I like guys with high batting averages. But I like guys who are significant in baseball. I know Aaron and Mays. I haven't covered them yet. Or Mantle. And Pete Rose. I haven't covered these guys yet as far as season by season by season. Video each season. I'm thinking... There's 3 guys I'm thinking of. I want to do next. Not sure who. You've got Eddie Collins has a .333 career batting average. Not as much significance in baseball history. The other guy is Jimmy Fox. This guy was really, really good. And the other guy is Honus Wagner. Haven't covered him yet. His career batting average is .327. Jimmy Fox, .325. I'm going to go Jimmy Fox next, all right? Why? Because he has the .327. I know Collins is higher. I think I'm going to go Fox, I'm going to go Wagner, and then I'll go Collins. And then what we'll do is we'll go down the list. There's some other guys that are kind of interesting. You got Paul Waiter. I haven't covered him. You've got Henny Manouche. He's another guy. Let's go Jimmy Fox next, okay? This guy was pretty good, especially in home runs, RBIs, batting average, and slugging. Talk to you later. Respectfully, I'm out.